Hello guys and welcome to the latest 15mm painting tutorial. Yes, that's right, 15mm. We haven't touched that for quite some time, so why not dive straight into the deep end and paint ourselves some SS camouflage, specifically the Oakleaf pattern in both spring and autumn. Now this is a common theme on the channel. I've done it in 28mm, I've done it in 20mm quite a few times, but I thought, you know what, I haven't done it in 15mm, so let's do it. And let's do it on the new Plastic Soldier Company Panzergrenadiers. If you want to check these out before they're painted, if that's the only reason why you've come, I will be looking at those in just a minute. But if you are completely unaware of what the hell I'm going on about, you can find these miniatures at the Plastic Soldier Company website. If you scroll down to World War II and just go to Germany, don't go past it like I just did, go to Germany, you can see there's quite a few different ranges to pick from, and most of them have the 3D printed options in there. But I'm going to be going to the 15mm option, obviously, because that's what we're going to be grabbing. As you can see, there is lots of 3D print options to choose from. There's also some plastic options further down in terms of vehicles and also infantry. But we want to go ahead and grab the 15mm World War II Panzergrenadiers for late war in 3D print form. And then you can choose your type and if you want them to have vehicles, etc. Then once they arrive, you're going to see them come like this. Now, I have seen some people say on the socials that this is a really poor practice, but you know what? I really don't care. This is a lot easier to clean up than most plastic or metal miniatures I've ever dealt with, and I actually think it protects the barrels a little bit better. So yeah, I'm not a 3D printing whiz. I'm not sure if this is a good practice or a bad practice, but in my opinion it works really well and I've had no issues whatsoever. And the cleanup is literally just snipping these little support beams off and then clip around the edges of the model and stick them on. There's very little cleanup. I think I had to use my Stanley on a couple of miniatures. Now you can see the detail is just phenomenal. Really well packed in there. Lots and lots of equipment on these guys. Everything looks great. They are be able to mix with here or SS because of what they've got, helmet camo covers, as well as those reversible smocks or tunics. So yeah, really nice. They are just lovely prints, especially at 15mm. So with that in mind, I'm going to give my model a Tomato Surface Primer Light Grey primer, and then I'm going to paint the smock. So I'm going to be painting that in AK Mud Brown. So this is just going to be the base cover for both the autumn and spring Oakleaf garments that these guys are wearing, so their helmet covers as well as their smock. And then I'm going to be painting any field grey, so the trousers, and also if you can see the collar coming out of that smock, in AK field grey base, which is lovely. I know I do change from AK to Vallejo quite a lot, but I think AK's military range really is superior at the moment. Vallejo do have some that are almost identical in terms of their colour, which you would expect. So if you don't have access to AK, then you just have to find the alternative, which I can do a video on at some point if it's popular enough. Then for the bread bag, I'm going to paint it in khaki. Now the bread bag did come in a variety of different colours, in greens and greys and these like khaki colours. So it really is up to you. There is no real universal colour that you should be painting this. You can paint this however you want. It's the same within reason, obviously. Same with the trousers. You know, German uniform wasn't all just a standard sort of colour that they had to go off. It was worn and it changed colour and shades, etc. I'm also painting the ammo belt in this colour, as well as his sleeping bag on the back. And then for the gas mask canister and ammo crates and spare barrel for the machine gun, I use US dark green. I lost my word for just a second there. So I'm using US dark green for that. Again, any sort of green. You could use a lighter green if you wanted to. Obviously 15mm is quite a small scale, so it is a bit tricky to make this sort of stuff pop. Then for the canteen, I'm using English uniform. Now this canteen does have a strap coming right down the middle of it, so be careful not to paint that strap. The details on these models are very thick, so they're easy to paint, and you're not going to paint over many of the details easily and then lose them because they're so thin. So if you do paint over the strap, it's no big deal, but just be aware that there is that strap coming down. Then with the strap painted, you want to paint the gaiters. I use Russian Uniform World War II. Again, you could use this Russian Uniform World War II for that bread bag, as well as the gas mask canister and ammo crates, etc. But try and change up your green colours just so there's different shades of the same sort of colour. Just adds a little bit more variety to your models and not everything looking the same. And then for any leather bag, so this guy's got a leather pouch here or a bag, we use German camo medium brown. Same with like a pistol holster. You could potentially paint the webbing in this colour if you want to, but I'm going to go with a black later on, which we'll see in just a moment. So again, I'm just going to be painting that in that colour. Then for the rifle and any other wooden items like a shovel, which these guys have got, I'm going to use flat earth for that. Now these rifles are very well detailed, so just make sure that you're taking your time and you're not painting some of those metal parts of the rifle in. And as I said, this guy's got a shovel. I know it's probably hard to see, especially if you're watching on your phone, but he does have a shovel. So yeah, I'm painting that as well as part of the MG42 stock. Then, as I said, for the webbing, I'm going to be using black. Now black is very, very dark. Obviously, you could use a really dark grey if you wanted to, but we're going to highlight that with a dark grey later on. So don't be afraid just to paint this in black. And you can see the model's really starting to come together, but we haven't put any of that camouflage pattern on. We will do that after it's had a wash. So for the machine gun and the metal parts, I'm going to be using black grey. So this is the MG42 that I'm painting. Another huge thumbs up for this is the fact that the MG42 hasn't got a bit of plastic between the bipod, so there is a hole through there. That is a real nice touch. I know it's very, very small in terms of the if it's required or not, you know, very minor sort of detail, but every little detail like that really helps, and I think that just looks so much nicer when it doesn't have a bit of metal or plastic between the two legs of the bipod. Then to wash this, I'm using no oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. This is my go-to wash for everything I do now. It's an in-between a wash and a glaze. A wash being obviously something that's going to just put a really washed down ink over your model, and then a glaze is more of a tint. So in the recesses it's going to be going black, and then on the flat surface it's going to just sort of tint it black opposed to being a really dark black. Now it's all about going back over the colour. So we're using AK Mud Brown again for the camoed areas, so the helmet and the smock. And you can see that I'm painting in the details now, leaving the original base colour and wash in those recesses. Obviously the camo pattern that we're going to be putting on these chaps is going to hide a lot of these creases and such, especially at this scale, so don't be too pedantic with this. Don't spend hours trying to get it perfect and then just ruin it with your camo colours, but do this process just because every little bit of highlighting helps. And this is a highlight that I'm doing now, even though I'm being very generous with it. So for the spring variant of the Oakleaf, I'm using AK Black Brown, and I'm painting in quite irregular blotches, quite a lot of them, in the various areas on the smock and the helmet cover. Now I know the lighting on here isn't the best at 15mm. It's hard to film, and I didn't want to zoom in where I'm going to be coming in and out of focus a lot. So hopefully you can make out what I'm doing. I don't think the lighting's the best either, and I'm coming up with all the excuses under the sun, but hopefully you can understand and see what I'm doing. Then for the brown part of the Oakleaf, or the autumn part, in the really dark areas, I'm using AK Grime Brown. So this is again for the autumn part. So this is the brown before that really light brown. That's going to complement it and add in those little dots to give us that very famous autumn Oakleaf look. So again, it's just irregular patterns. Try and keep them like more rounded than sharp, and just add in just these blotches just all over the place. Then with that done, we can go ahead and move to that AK light brown. So again, we're onto the autumn part of this camo tutorial. So you can see that I'm adding very, very minor little dots. Now I'm adding in these little dots inside of that dark brown that we've just put down, those irregular blotches, we're adding them inside of them. We're not covering the entirety of the blotch, but we're just covering quite a lot of it with these little tiny dots. And then I'm also throwing just out a few little tiny dots outside of those blotches, just to break it up a little bit, make it not look so one-sided in terms of just blotches being painted in with this orange. So little tiny dots just on the outside of that pattern as well, just to give it those little extra details. And it really does make a difference. If you just leave the light brown in those dark patches, it just doesn't look right. And so if you throw in a few little odd light brown dots between them, it just makes it look that much better, especially at 15mm. It does look really nice. And then for the spring variant, I'm going to use AK Golden Olive, which is just a very, very light green. Probably a bit unrealistic if you're going any higher, like 20mm or 28mm. But at 15mm, it really does make the pattern pop, and it does look great from a distance. So, or even up close, I should say, if I'm bragging a little bit. But yeah, it does look really nice. And you can see here, this is a good example. I'm just adding in little tiny dots inside of those really dark green blotches. Sorry, just lost my thought for a second there. And then I'm adding in just a couple of dots in between those blotches. So with the uniform done, which is the hardest part, or sorry, the camouflage done, we can then move on to the field grey of his trousers, and also if he's got his tunic coming over the top. So again, this is just the first layer because we're painting the raised areas of the trousers and leaving those darker recesses with that base and wash inside of it. And then to highlight those raised areas, I'm using AK Field Grey base and grey green at a 1:1 ratio. And you can see that it's really, really light already. And there's lots and lots of details on these 3D printed Plastic Soldier Company miniatures, which makes highlights really, really straightforward because they've done all the work for you. Now I'm being lazy. I picked guys that are prone just to make the process a little bit easier and to probably make the filming easier for you guys to see. So yeah, you can see I'm just painting the collar of his tunic there as well. Now I'm moving on to the bread bag and as well as the sleeping bag. Again, the bread bag's got lots and lots of details on it, so try and capture those as best you can, and then just leave that original base color and wash base color in the recesses and around these little tabs that you can see on the actual bread bag itself. And then the same again. There's little tiny grooves that show like sort of string or something between each part of that rolled up bag. So just leave them dark and then give the rest of it a go. And then to highlight that, we use khaki and stone grey. And you can see that that just pops straight away when we put that colour down. It's a very light colour, so don't go too crazy, and obviously don't put too much of that stone grey in. But yeah, you can see that that just really does draw the eye. Now I know you can paint this obviously in a different camo pattern of the Oakleaf just to mix it up, but I think just to break it up so you're not painting everything in Oakleaf, I think painting the sleeping bag just a base colour is great. So we're going back over those green items, so the gas mask canister, the ammunition tin, spare MG barrel. So yeah, we're painting them all in this colour and you're picking out all the details again. Again, lots and lots of details on here. And then to highlight those, I'm using that US olive drab and German camo beige 2:1 ratio as my highlight. Now the reason I did this instead of using the US dark green was just because I mixed them up. So you can use the US dark green and German camo beige World War II at the same ratio and you'll get pretty much the same sort of colour. So yeah, don't be too worried with my dodginess in this part, but you can see that it does add a nice look to it. So for those Russian uniform World War II areas, so the gaiters, we're going to be giving those literally just a line or two. There wasn't really much details to these. It was just, you could tell that there were gaiters. There was nothing to write home about, which is understandable because, yeah, they're gaiters. So to highlight those, I just used Russian uniform World War II and German camo beige at a 1:1 ratio. And I'm literally just adding in a very faint line on the outer edge and each part of the gaiter. Then for the water bottle, the process is really straightforward. I use English uniform and I'm just adding in just a little line on each side. And again, trying to avoid that strap that's coming down the middle of that water bottle. Then to highlight that, I use khaki grey. Again, just a little line, but this time it's on the very outer edge of it. You can see there, bosh, done. And it looks the business. Then for those leather parts, we're going back over them in German Camo medium brown. Now this is blending in with the base colour that I painted these in, because I used German Camo medium brown for that. So yeah, try not to make the same mistake I did. But German Camo medium brown acts really nicely against the paste that I use for the base. And then German Camo medium brown, orange brown in a 2:1 ratio to highlight. So just giving it that worn sort of orangey leather look to the brown areas that we've painted. Then for the magazine belt, I'm using gold. Now I know you probably want to be using brass, obviously that's more realistic, but at 15mm, I think gold does the trick. It's more shiny, stands out more, it pops more, and it helps to highlight those beautiful details. Then for the wood, I use flat earth again, and this method is the same that I do in all of mine. From 50mm to 28mm, I literally add in just little scratches all along the frame of the wood, so the rifle, as well as the shovel. The reason I do this is to sort of simulate wood grains. And I know wood grains in 50mm, right? That's just craziness, but it does work. It does look really, really nice. So once I've got that flat earth down, I use flat earth and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio. And again, it's just doing exactly what I was doing before, just little scratches here and there, obviously reducing the amount that I'm putting in here because we're going up in brightness. So we don't want to look too unrealistic if we can help it. And then finally, I use orange brown. Now, again, if you're watching this on mobile phones, then you might be looking at this going, I can't really see what's going on, but you should be able to make out the brightness of that rifle starting to pop. And even the details in that rifle stock, you can just see that there's a little bit of detail in the middle there. So that's a real nice sculpted miniature from Plastic Soldier Company. Then for the webbing, I'm using black grey. So I did say we're going to be highlighting the webbing, so we don't do anything else. This is purely just a highlight now. So it's black and I'm highlighting it in black grey. So there's plenty of bits of the webbing to get out. You've got the straps going over the shoulders. You've got, in this guy's case, the loader. He's got some Kar 98 pouches as well. And then you want to also use this black grey to put your first layer down on those weapons or those metal areas that you've painted. Once I've got that down, the webbing's done, but we can then turn our attention solely to the metal of the guns. We use black grey and basil grey at a 1:1 ratio as our next layer. So we are going to do one more round on the metal, and that's going to be our final highlight. I'm just bringing that light colour down, obviously not painting these in silver. I'm using a darker colour because that's a bit more realistic. Again, lots and lots of detail on this machine gun too, so it makes painting it very easy. And then finally, I use basil grey, and this is just a highlight now, so I'm not adding too much of this on, but it does complement the machine gun nicely. And you can see the model really is just coming into its own now. Once we've painted the flesh on, this is going to look really nice. So with that done, we can move on to the flesh. So I'm going to keep this very quick as I possibly can. I use light flesh from AK Interactive for this. Again, my flesh recipe is just the same as it is for pretty much all other scales. Obviously, I'm not painting eyes in 15mm form. If you do, you're crazy and I envy you and I'm jealous just because I can't do it. But yeah, so we're getting that base flesh color down, and then I'm using a flesh wash. As I keep mentioning, there's lots of detail on these, so the faces aren't any exception to that. They have got lots of detail on there, and they have got different facial expressions too. So the flesh wash just really makes those little extra details pop. With those washes applied and left to dry, I then go over with light flesh. Now this is a layer, so I'm picking out the nose, the cheekbones, the chin. If you can just make out the ear, a little bit of the ear, and then we can focus on the hands and the little fingers. I tend to try and paint all of the fingers if I can, or add in a little line to show the fingers. I just think it looks better that way, but you could just paint a blotch of fingers, because I mean obviously you're not going to really be able to make out the gap at 15mm. And then to highlight all of that, I use light flesh and highlight flesh at a 1:1 ratio. So you can see I'm just picking out each individual finger at this point, which I can see, and then it would be onto the nose, onto the cheekbone, and all that other good stuff, but not adding on too much obviously. You can see I'm just adding in little bits of detail on the fingers there. I think I made a mistake, that's why I've given this a bit more attention than it probably needs. And then I'm giving the one of the finger coming through the trigger, and then the fingers going around the grip there. So yeah, that's the flesh pretty much done. And there we go, so we've come to an end. So that is literally from start to finish, just not the basing. I can do a basing tutorial if you guys want to see it, but this is very basic basing. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for making it so basic, but let me know what you think of these. Did you like these? Are the new Plastic Soldier Company 3D prints something that you're going to be interested in buying? This isn't the first time we've had those PSC 3D prints on the channel. We have got a 20mm panhard on the channel that was from the Plastic Soldier Company's 3D printed range. So yeah, definitely worth giving them a go. These infantry are lovely, they are really nice. I'm going to compare them with Flames of War, the old metal Flames of War SS box set, in a future video, because I might paint some of those up perhaps in PDOT, and then we can see how they mix and match. But looking at them briefly, I think they will match really nicely with the Flames of War stuff as well. So you've got some real good winners here, guys, if you want to get yourself some new Panzergrenadiers or SS in 15mm form that look really good and full of detail. A huge thank you goes out to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Special mention goes out to Oscar, Patrick and Panzer Jim for being my Panzer Aces. All of you and viewers that are watching this now are just superb, and I really do appreciate it. If you're new here and you haven't liked this video or subscribed, please do so. It will just help that YouTube algorithm get this video out there. I'm going to leave it here, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.